right, so welcome law-abiding citizens and curious troublemakers alike to the Tentacles of Cuyahoga County. I'm your host, the infamous ex-chief, back to unravel more mysteries of justice and injustice. You're tuning in to episode 30, where we're diving deeper into the murky waters of law enforcement, and I'm here to shine a light on the shadows of the system. So buckle up, folks. Whether you're a die-hard fan or a first-time listener, you're in for a welcome to our channel. Remember, the tentacles of justice reach far and wide, and as always, I'm here to make sure they're squeezing in all the right places. This is the week of Monday, October 21st. The week of October 21st. It's Police Commemoration Day on October 21st, where India honors the brave officers who lost their lives in a 1959 ambush by Chinese troops. Meanwhile, in Mozambique, police are celebrating by generously sharing their tear gas supplies with opposition protesters unhappy about election results. And let's not forget the Madison police in New Jersey, who are thoughtfully warning residents that they'll be practicing their marksmanship skills. So don't be alarmed by all the gunfire. It's just another festive week for law enforcement around the globe. All right, listen up, you nosy neighbors and corruption connoisseurs. Got a juicy tidbit or a burning question? Don't let it fester in that conspiracy-loving brain of yours. Spill the beans at the Tentacles of Cuyahoga County at gmail.com. Link below here. For those of you who think that NSA is tracking your every sneeze, fear not. You can go all cloak and dagger with our Signal QR code. It's like passing notes in class, but for grown-ups with trust issues, and there are a lot of trust issues with Cuyahoga County prosecutors at hand. There'll be links down below, or opposite of the flag, I'll put the QR code. So now let's talk some turkey, or rather coffee. If you've been enjoying our weekly plunge into Cuyahoga County's cesspool of secrets, consider fueling this ex-chief's caffeine addiction. Trust me, unraveling the tangled web of local politics requires more Joe than your average stakeout. Plus, it's cheaper than bribing a politician and way more legal. Feel free to hit the contribute to the buy me a coffee if you like, or don't. Remember, folks, I'm your friendly neighborhood watchdog, sniffing out the good cops and marking my territory on the bad ones. So buckle up, Buttercup. It's time to get informed and entertained, whether you like it or not. So, folks, this comes as the sad time where I must admit that I was wrong and incorrect. I gave the judges of Cuyahoga County too much credit. I gave the jury of Cuyahoga County too much credit. And we're going to walk through the Cuyahoga County justice system, a web of contradictions. So, Cuyahoga County, a disturbing pattern continues to emerge, where law enforcement officers have faced convictions despite substantial evidence supporting their innocence. This trend raises serious questions about the integrity of the Cuyahoga County justice system and the potential overreach of prosecutorial power. Let's face it, the expert testimony was totally disregarded in this trial of Sergeant Holmes and Officer McInnes. All right. One of the most alarming aspects of these cases is the apparent disregard for expert testimony. In multiple instances, use of force and crime scene analysts have provided evidence that contradicts the prosecution's narrative. Yet their professional opinions seem to have been overlooked or minimized during trial proceedings. All right. First, you have the Ohio State Highway Patrol that came on and testified during this trial. All right. Their findings were basically ignored by the jury. Even more concerning is the dismissal of the investigations conducted by the Ohio State Highway Patrol. OSP's thorough examinations have cleared officers of wrongdoing. However, local prosecutors have pushed forward with charges, seemingly ignoring these independent findings. This is happening even prior to the trial. All right, folks. The prosecutor O'Malley, and I've dubbed her Sammy Hyena Soul, because all she does, some of the most unprofessional conduct I've ever seen in a trial. She just sits there and laughs and giggles through the entire trial. It's amazing to me. So perhaps most troubling is the prosecution's willingness to proceed even when their own state expert witnesses don't fully support their claims. In some instances, these experts have expressed reservations or outright disagreement with key elements of the prosecution's case. Despite this, prosecutors have forged ahead, leaving many to question their motives and methods. All right. This happened in this case. The expert that the state called testified that he didn't really agree with all the things that the prosecutors were saying. So this is their own witness. And of course, the prosecutors make this reference to the defense hiring Kevin Davis, who is a OPATA use of force expert by far. Written books, guys testifying all over the place. He actually is selective where he testifies. He does not testify for everyone. And I'll be honest, there's some cases that I am familiar with of officers that Davis has declined to represent them. So let's talk about, is there a pattern of injustice? These cases paint a picture of a justice system that may be more focused on securing convictions than actually getting to the truth. Disregard for expert testimony, independent investigations, even contradictions from their own witnesses suggest a potentially systematic issue within Cuyahoga County prosecutors' approach. These cases should have been investigated by a third, unbiased party, such as BCI. Ask yourself that. That's the minimum question to ask, right? Why are the prosecutors investigating cases with their investigators? This should have been turned over to an unbiased party like BCI. BCI comes in and investigates all the time for the Cuyahoga County Prosecutor's Office. Why were they specifically left out for the East Cleveland cases? If you don't agree or believe in anything else I'm saying, let that resonate. Let that resonate that all the other times they will include BCI because it's a appearance of impropriety for them to investigate parties of their own county. All right? But yet here with this East Cleveland case, they've run rampant with Robert D. Simone, a Cuyahoga County prosecutor who alleges he has accident reconstruction. By the way, he said in trial that he had accident reconstruction from 1991. And it's very interesting to me that I have actually public records requested all of his files from Parma, the prosecutor's office, and he was also a Cuyahoga County special deputy at one point. And I don't see any training whatsoever in his files. So either he didn't do it, or each of those agencies really haven't kept up with any of his training. So as we continue to unravel the tentacles of Cuyahoga County, it's crucial to examine these cases very closely and question whether justice is truly being served. The implications of such practices extend far beyond these individual cases. Again, referencing back what I said before, a hammer sees a nail. I was the hammer. I was this guy that was involved in this system with Cuyahoga County and thought that they did a great job. And honestly, most of the prosecutors that I worked with did do a great job. There were some unethical things that I saw. And again, the hammer sees only the nail. So former East Cleveland detective Ian McInnes was found guilty by a Cuyahoga County jury on several charges. So I wanted to come back in, folks, and give this detailed update. When I initially recorded, there was some misinformation relative to the charges, but I wanted to make certain that we're all on the same page here. So for McInnes, the jury delivered the following verdicts. Not guilty, count 37, not guilty of attempted felonious assault. Count 46, not guilty of attempted felonious assault. Count 52, not guilty of felonious assault. Count 53, not guilty of felonious assault. Count 54, not guilty of interfering with civil rights. Count 55, not guilty of assault. Count 56, not guilty of dereliction of duty. The jury did return guilty verdicts for count 38, guilty of assault, misdemeanor. Count 40, guilty of interfering with civil rights, misdemeanor. Count 41, guilty of dereliction of duty, misdemeanor. Count 42, guilty of attempted felonious assault, F3, count 43, guilty of assault, misdemeanor. Count 44, guilty of interfering with civil rights, misdemeanor. Count 45, guilty of dereliction of duty, misdemeanor. Count 47, guilty of assault, misdemeanor. Count 48, guilty of interfering with civil rights, misdemeanor. Count 49, guilty of dereliction of duty, which is an M2. And the defendant was referred to the county probation department for your pre-sentence investigation and report. And the sentencing is scheduled for November 14th. The original bond is continued until then. So for Sergeant Holmes, the jury delivered the following verdicts. Not guilty, count 46, attempted felonious assault. Not guilty, count 47, assault. They returned a verdict of guilty for count 48, interfering with civil rights, a misdemeanor. Count 49, dereliction of duty, a misdemeanor. Count 50, tampering with records, F3. I mean, if you look at the original, I mean, the tampering with records is just ludicrous. But they're talking about he didn't report correctly, is what they're alleging. I don't know. It's a fiasco. But again, count 50, F3, tampering with records. I have no idea how that came about. But anyways, I don't know how majority of any of these came about. But let's continue on. Sorry. Count 51, F5, telecommunications fraud. Dismissed counts were 57, 59, 60, 61, and 62. Those were dismissed without prejudice upon a motion on June 21st. And the defendant has been referred to the county probation department for a pre-sentence investigation report. Bond remains original. And again, his sentencing is also scheduled for November 14th. So obviously these things are going to be appealed. But just like even in Officer DeMarco Johnson's case, who is under appeal, it takes forever. So again, the public isn't going to see it. They're not going to see the correlation, all of this, but I'm going to continue to report on this and keep everything tight so that everybody from the public has an idea of what's happening and transpiring. Because again, I'm not going to let them forget, oh, DeMarco won his appeal, or this officer won their appeal, this officer won their appeal. I'm going to make certain that everybody is aware, right? But unfortunately, there is no time limits necessarily on appeals when judges have to actually look at the appeals. I mean, again, Officer DeMarco Johnson was sent to prison, and he's already out, and his appeal hasn't even been decided. Very interesting. And the judge in that case would not even stay his, and he had no previous record. So, and the judge would not stay his prison sentence pending the appeal, which I thought was fairly interesting. Again, Officer Johnson this was not a violent crime that he was accused of. There was no reason to incarcerate him other than for the publicity of it. So let's talk about we're moving on, keeping on, rolling with the East Cleveland drama. And I honestly at some point would like to get beyond the reporting of the corruption of Cuyahoga County, but the Cuyahoga County Prosecutor's Office just won't let it happen. So let's talk about the East Cleveland mayor indictment, right? That, again, it transpired in the midst of Officer McInnes and Sergeant Holmes' trials when things were looking pretty good for both officers. In the middle, the county prosecutors up to that point, their entire mantra that they were giving the jury was how corrupt the city of East Cleveland is, and then all of a sudden, bam, you've got the indictment of Mayor Brandon King. So the charges: Mayor Brandon King, 56, has been indicted on a slew of charges, including theft in office, having an unlawful interest in a public contract, and criminal ethics violations. Essentially, he's accused of lining his pockets with taxpayer money by leasing office space to the city's domestic violence department from his own company, King Management Group Limited, for a cool $14,184.21 annually. And because one conflict of interest wasn't enough, he also allegedly authorized the city to purchase $5,803.17 in cleaning supplies from another family-owned business, American Merchandising Services. But wait, there's more. King is also accused of improperly providing a city vehicle and gas cards to a former councilman, Ernest Smith, who used them to buy $6,791 worth of gas on the city's dime. So, there's a motion that's going forward, and each obviously has their, King and Smith, each respectively have their own counsel, and somehow the ex-councilman Ernest Smith has ended up with Willa Hemmons, who also is the city law director, as his criminal defense attorney. And her motions are always very entertaining, folks. So she filed, I believe it was a 107-page... Hang on, let me look this up. All right, I had to look it up, folks. 108-page motion. Now, mind you, they haven't even been arraigned yet. All right, so this is something that's honestly, at least for me, I've never heard of this. Willa has filed a motion for dismissal prior to him even being arraigned. It's 108 pages. So let's go over what the motion is. All right, it's a defense motion to dismiss criminal charges against Ernest Smith, who again was an ex-council member for the city of East Cleveland. And I had it in my notes, didn't even realize it. It is 108 pages long. And the key points of the motions are: it argues for dismissal of several counts related to having an unlawful interest in public contracts and representation by a public office. The motion claims these charges fall under a continuing course of dealing, and that's quote, continuing course of dealing, unquote, exemption, and are also barred by the statute of limitations. The motion further talks about it. In 2014, Mayor King received guidance from the Ohio Ethics Commission on how to I want to go back because, again, remember, Willa is supposed to be Ernest Smith's attorney, but her motion makes heavy references to the mayor, which is quite ironic. Again, not the legal, and there are times where defense attorneys will file motions jointly, one attorney, and then the other one will just sort of jump on the back of the other motion. But her motion is like referencing more so to the mayor than it is to her own client, Ernest Smith, which I find ironic. But the mayor King received, so in 2014, her motion is talking about the mayor received guidance from the Ohio Ethics Commission on how to divest from his interest in a company called KMG that had contracts with the city. The motion claims King followed this guidance by divesting in December of 2018. It further argues the charges were improperly influenced by allegations from a political opponent named Eric Brewer. And folks, it just Google. It won't take very much time to remember who Eric Brewer is. And I didn't even realize after I was excavated from out of the city of East Cleveland, Eric Brewer came back, and apparently he's working for council now. He's some sort of, I believe, a council clerk at this point. And the hopes are, from my understanding, is that if Brandon King is kicked out of office, that the president of council then will be elected to the mayor's position, and that person is going to hire Eric Brewer as his chief of staff. Hire Eric Brewer as chief of staff. Amazing how things come full circle. So anyways, she's alleging improperly, some of the charges were improperly influenced by allegations from a political opponent named Eric Brewer, and for counts related to use of a city vehicle, it claims the mayor had legitimate authority to allow use of the vehicle. It also argues some counts are barred by the statute of limitations. Now, folks, I did want to I want to go back. I'm not a fan of Brandon King. Never was. I think he is corrupt. Him and his cohort, Mike Smedley, chief of staff, probably some of the most corrupt, unethical, racist individuals I have ever encountered in my entire life. However, I believe he does have authority to give that vehicle to any employee of the city under charter. So I'm a little confused how the Cuyahoga County Prosecutor's Office has just summarily decided that he does not have that authority. He's the chief executive of the city. A city vehicle is property of the city. I mean, it makes sense to me that he would have the authority. I think it specifically talks about it in the charter. But anyways, I digress. It claims, going back to the motion, it claims the prosecution is politically motivated and improper. Overall, the motion seeks dismissal of all charges against Smith and King and requests a hearing on the motion. The motion provides extensive background on the alleged offenses and cites various legal arguments for why the charges should be dismissed. It appears to be a comprehensive attempt to have the entire criminal case thrown out before they're even arraigned. And again, it's 108 pages. And I'm sure that she did not use any city time drafting it. I'm sure she did it all on her own time. And that's me being very dry and sarcastic, folks. So now let's talk about the Akron City's Police Department's money grab. Folks, don't defund the police because the woke crowd aren't going to be able to pay their bills if you defund the police. You have to fund the police so that other people can live off the police like the woke crowd. So anyways, grab your riot shields, folks, because you're about to dissect the latest head-scratcher from Akron's finest decision-makers. In a move that's sure to make every cop's taser tingle, the city of Akron has decided to open its coffers and settle with the family of Jaylon Walker. You remember Walker, right? The guy who thought it'd be a brilliant idea to turn a routine traffic stop into a high-speed chase on Route 8 there.
At this time, we're going to play the first video, which Lieutenant Miller described to you. We hope this video will provide further context and details to the incident.
On Monday, June 27, 2022, at 12:30 in the morning, Akron police officers attempted to stop a silver Buick on East Talmadge Avenue near Thayer Street. Officers informed dispatch that the reason for the stop was for a traffic violation as well as an equipment violation. The driver of the vehicle refused to stop, and officers initiated vehicle pursuit as the vehicle was nearing the East Talmadge Avenue entrance ramp to Route 8 southbound. Approximately 40 seconds after the driver of the vehicle fled from the attempted stop, a sound consistent with a gunshot can be heard on the body-worn cameras of the officers. Officers notified dispatch that a shot came out of the suspect's car door.
Getting on the 8 south from Talmadge, reason for the stop was traffic violation. 21 shots fired, that vehicle just had a shot come out of its door.
At the time of the sound, a flash of light can be seen along the driver's side of the suspect vehicle.
Now here's where it gets rich. Despite evidence that Walker played a little game of shoot the cop during the chase, Akron's bigwigs have decided to hand over a chunk of taxpayer change to his family. That's right, folks. Apparently in Akron, taking pot shots at our boys in blue is now a lucrative family business. You can't defund the police. You've got to make sure that the woke people still have money in their pockets. So let's break it down for those in the cheap seats. Walker led police on a merry chase, fired a shot from his car, and then decided to cosplay as Usain Bolt. But wait, there's more. A grand jury looked at all of this and said, nah, we're good. We're going to decline to press charges against the officers involved. Even the Akron PD's internal investigation, not exactly known for its harsh criticism, deemed that the officer's actions objectively were reasonable. Where the credibility wins is in the Ohio Attorney General's Office, Bureau of Criminal Identification and Investigation, concurred with the findings that Walker did shoot at the officer. All right, and so let's face it, folks. All right, we don't need BCI to figure this out with all their high-tech science. You can simply just watch the video. You can hear it. You hear the gunshot. All right, it's plain as day. But why let... and if I recall, now that I'm thinking about it, not only do you hear the gunshot, I believe you actually see the muzzle flash. So, but why let little things like facts and investigation get in the way of a good payday, right? It's not like our brave officers need the money for silly things like training, which we always hear about. Officers need more training, equipment, or I don't know, bulletproof vests to protect them from future aspiring sharpshooters. So there you have it, folks. In Akron, the new retirement plan seems to be step 1, shoot at the cops. Step 2, hire ambulance chasing Bobby DiCello. And step 3, profit. So stay tuned to the Tentacles of Cuyahoga County, where we continue to unravel the bizarre logic of our local leaders. Next week, we'll explore whether Akron plans to replace all police cruisers with those pedal cars. Because why not at this point? Hey there, Tentacle Nation. It's time for another snarky segment on the wild world of law enforcement encounters. Today, we're diving into a real doozy from our friends down in Fairfax County, Virginia. So picture this. Officer Peter Liu, armed with his crisis intervention training and a knock-knock joke, decides to check in on Sydney Wilson, a woman who's apparently been having a rough time. Sounds like a recipe for a heartwarming Hallmark movie, right? Wrong. Our hero, Lou, knocks on Wilson's door, probably expecting to be greeted with cookies and a tearful thank you. Instead, he gets a full-face door slam. Rude much, Sydney? After a few more minutes of Lou's persistent knocking, because nothing says I care like annoying the heck out of someone, Wilson decides to spice things up. She opens the door again, but this time with a special accessory, a knife. Talk about a fashion faux pas. What follows is a bizarre dance routine where Lou repeatedly yells, "Back up!" while Wilson apparently missed the memo on personal space. It's like a twisted game of red light, green light, but with potentially lethal consequences. Now, you might be thinking, wait a minute, doesn't Fairfax County have one of those fancy co-responder programs? Well, dear viewers, they do. But apparently their mental experts were too busy responding to another call. Maybe they were helping someone who was feeling blue about their commanders losing again. Remember, folks, if you're feeling down, don't grab a knife when someone knocks on your door. And if you're an officer, maybe bring a really long stick the next time. Or better yet, how about we fund more mental health services? That whole premise seems to be really working. Sending someone unarmed would have come out with a much better ending, I am sure. Sarcasm aside, our officers in this country are so afraid to use force now. This could have entirely turned hugely worse. We've talked about it, especially in the video with our OPADA use of force instructor, Doug Miller, relative to the 20-foot rule, 21-foot rule with knives. And this is a perfect example of why. Because knives can be deadly. So let's watch this video. See what you think. Should she have been shot as soon as she produced the knife? Because that's probably what should have happened.
1 month after arrest and woman was shot and killed by a Fairfax County police officer, police have released body camera footage of that intense moment. Officers responded to her apartment because of a mental health call, but it quickly turned violent. Our Matthew Torres joins us live from police headquarters in Fairfax. Matthew, you just watched the video. What can you tell us?
Well, Simone, this is an example of how dangerous a police officer's job can be on any given day. Chief Kevin Davis says this officer was the victim of an unprovoked violent attack. He was checking up on a lady when police say she slashed his face with a knife. A warning now, some of the video you're about to see you may find disturbing.
Back up. Oh, yeah. Hey, man. What else to do? Please back up. Oh, yeah. Back up. Oh, back up. Back up.
All right, so we are freezing that moment of the gunshots. This happened at the apartment complex on Sunrise Valley Drive near Reston Parkway the morning of September 16th. Officer Peter Liu, who is trained in crisis intervention, knocked on 33-year-old Sydney Wilson's door when she slammed it on his face. He knocked for almost 3 more minutes when she placed the phone near the door with the music on. She then opened the door again, this time with a knife, and slashed that officer in the face. You could hear the officer telling the woman to back up at least 8 times as he himself backed up into a dead-end hallway.
And that was 7 more times than should have been.
Dead-end hallway. Police say he fired his gun multiple times, hitting her 3 times after she attacked him again. The woman's mental health provider first reached out to police out of concern she was in an agitated state. As we've learned, police dealt with this same person a number of times this year, including the day before this incident.
So he did the things that we train him and expect him to do. If you're threatened like that, if you can tactically reposition yourself, do it. If you can use distance, use it. If you can seek cover and concealment, seek it.
This guy's full of crap. I'm assuming this is the chief of police, okay? Tactical advantage of a knife is 21 feet. And you saw how close or how fast she was able to close that tactical gap. This guy's full of crap.
All those options just weren't available to him.
And as we have been reporting the last 2 years, Fairfax County has a co-responder program, which is a unit that pairs up officers with mental health experts on certain calls. Chief Davis says there was a unit that day working, but they were already responding to a different call. And he believes that even though the unit may have responded with the mental health clinician, that this situation likely could have gone dangerous, as what we saw on that body cam video, and could have put that...
It would have put the officer in danger and probably the mental health worker.
Put that mental health expert's safety in harm's way. Of course, as any other incident like this, they are reviewing to see what could have been done differently. In the meantime, we're learning...
Should have been shot after the first time. That's what should have been done differently.
In the meantime, we're learning the officer is recovering, doing much better, and is now working in a different department as this investigation continues. Simone?
All right, Matt, really tough situation. Appreciate your reporting.
Seriously, folks, this is what happens when you drill officers to be scared to do their jobs. This lady should have been shot as soon as she produced the knife. But with similar prosecutors like Mike O'Malley and Sammy the Laughing Hyena, this is what you get.
We always thought we were out in the country. This type of stuff always happens in the city. It doesn't happen out here.
So, welcome back to Tentacle Nation. We'll be dipping our toes soon in a case that made massive waves in the community of Hudson Township. So, get ready for a sneak peek into the Janice and Christensen case from Cuyahoga Falls. A story that's been lurking in the shadows for nearly 4 decades. In 1987, Janice Christensen went for a jog on the Metro bike path, never to return. Her disappearance sent shockwaves through Hudson Township, leaving a mystery that haunted the region ever since. But now the tides have turned. Thanks to cutting-edge DNA technology and relentless detective work, this cold case is heated up. We've got a name, we've got a suspect, and we've got a story that's going to unravel like nothing you've seen before. Stay tuned, folks. In the coming weeks, we'll be diving deep into the twists and turns of this case, from the initial investigation, including an interview with one of the original lead investigators, all the way to the recent breakthrough. We'll explore how modern forensics are changing the game for cold cases right here in our backyard. Don't miss our upcoming deep dive into the Janice Christensen case. It's a story decades in the making and is finally ready to be told. And so that will do it, folks. That's a wrap for this episode 31. It's been a heck of a ride, folks. And I need to, at some point, share some analytics with you because I like being transparent about where we are growing as a family, as a Tentacle Nation, and sort of show the support that you guys are giving the channel, which is awesome. I appreciate each and every one of you. I appreciate that you guys give me the drive to continue to do this. You guys give this, you are the reason that I want to come back and attempt to deliver quality content every week. So anyways, we'll see you next week.